Hello, and you're very welcome. There'll be no mention of spice bags, IPAs, Bombay Gin, or Evan O'Kane. This is the Town End podcast. It's season 3, episode 14. And to go through this delight at the Bull tonight, we have Gally and Kieran Callan. Gents, how are we?
Evening.
Very good. Thanks for having me, lads.
It seems like I've missed out on an absolutely treat in the commentary tonight.
I'm so glad I was at the game, so I didn't have to hear. You know what I mean? I had a rare weekend off this weekend, so it was nice just to be able just to sit back and actually watch a game without laptops and phones and updates and everything. So it was a good treat for me.
You definitely picked a good one.
You were stuck with it.
Oh, I missed the first. I actually missed the first 10 minutes of the match. It's mental. I'm going to start a podcast on a 2-0 win at the end of a cracking weekend. I'm going to talk about the commentator straight out the gate. But I missed the first 10 minutes, and I'd seen the tweets, and I thought, sure, it can't be that bad. It's beyond stupid, like beyond hilarious. And I know people are thinking, it's great, it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of Donald Green hit the nail on the head. It's a joke. Like, to have commentators like that at a League of Ireland professional game talking about spice bags or satay chickens, whatever IP, like, it'd be different if it was just an isolated conversation, but this was a thing going through the game, the first half in particular. It was just, it was probably the highest spectacle of the game, really, because it wasn't, if we're talking about the match, it's a 2-0 win, fantastic, 3 points. It's not a great game, but, we probably have to discuss the match, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think...
What did Donald Green thought them? It sounds like the weirdo mates that you bring along on a stag or something. Yeah. Kieran, I'll come to you first.
Yeah.
We come with 3 changes from the Derby win at the weekend. We're all thinking Pat Hooben's back. Great, we got to keep him in the team now. And Skip's brave and makes those 3 changes. What did you make of them?
I think because, when you think about the fact that the games were so short, the recovery time between the 2 games, that was, first of all, that was vitally important. And I think Stephen isn't afraid to make squad rotations when necessary, but I don't think he's doing it just for the sake of it. I think he's doing it because, in relation to what kind of the defence and the opposition that he's facing, he knew that he could make those changes in the basis of, first of all, resting key players, but also ensuring that the continuity of the team. But then again, the players that he brought in, they needed minutes. Not only did they need minutes, but without being disrespectful to UCD, this is the kind of game that you'd want them to come into, because UCD are a very, very good side, but they're not going to sit back and be compact, and you're not going to be frustrated for maybe 80 minutes and then they'll hit you on a counter. UCD and Andy Myler want to play football, and they want to play a good, expansive brand of football. So that was the kind of game that you were going into. And look, I was sitting right down on the pitch line, kind of on the very front row in the UCD Bowl, and I have to say, it's a fantastic playing surface. It's good. It's good for good football, and it was actually something that I commented to one of the supporters that was sitting behind me. And I don't want to go too far down the debate yet, but it's the difference between them playing on grass and them playing on the Oriel Park surface is completely night and day. You can see that they're much more comfortable. The passing was sharper. There was a bit more of an impetus and a drive with them, and UCD the same. So it doesn't. It of course brings up the debate once again about the playing surface at Oriel Park. But I think all in all, Gally did say it. It wasn't a game that you're going to be writing an awful lot about. But I don't think, apart from that kind of period near the end of the game where there was kind of 1 or 2 specific chances, we were kind of in control of the tempo of the game, and we kind of managed it. It was game management. It was getting the result and moving on. I think that was the big objective of today. And you had John Martin, who came off the bench, and he's now got 2 and 2, and so was Ryan O'Kane. And all in all, it's a good day at the office. You chalk it off, 3 points, thanks very much. But the focus is going to be on a very difficult trip to a very informed Sligo Rovers next Saturday.
Yeah, Gally, anything, Dara Lee obviously ends up being captain tonight. A man who's probably had to play in several positions, out of his own position, out of his natural position, and then ends up on taking the captain's armband tonight. It's probably just another requirement that he's just picked up tonight, and another man just kind of rolled with it again.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking at someone, if you're going through the squad of the players that they've swapped, and obviously Pat Hooban hasn't started, someone with experience that's played, Ryan Dara is on what? Is he on his third manager? Or is he on his, he would be on his third set of coaching staff. So I mean, he's been there, done it with us. I don't know what his caps are, but for experience, you could argue looking at the lineup, you could make a case for the likes of Muller, but he's not, as I said, they're not here long enough. That would be maybe in a year's time. But someone like Leahy, you couldn't really argue with it for the changes that were made. But just go back to what Kieran said, and John, Flanagan said that it's a game that, like Kieran said, get out with the 3 points. We can talk about
it there with 3 points last year, so this is.
Well, no, that's the thing. We kind of tongue in cheek said it here last Friday night. UCD, and I still say UCD are the Bray of years ago. They're just that bogey team that we just never seem to put to bed. And last year proved it. And to go down there, like Kieran said, it's a good surface, good pitch. That's never been in doubt. Like, we can't even say it's an awful place to play football because their stand's better than what we have in Oriel Park. But it's a game. Myler's team, they play football. I mean, look, they're always going through a season where they get an absolute pasting, and they're always going to be in the relegation battles. But they play really good football. Now, today's match, I don't know if it allowed for us to really get. Yeah, we definitely were a better team, but we were a better team in a poor game. We weren't. Like, there was times there even. For me, I don't know if it's just maybe it's just the game that's in it. The fact that he played Friday night. There's some kind of chasing down by Mali in midfield, where it didn't look like he was running. So I don't know if they're just tired maybe from the game on Friday, and I don't really know why. But as a performance, look, you've got the job done. I wouldn't say 2-0 flatters us, but it's a poor match. I mean, it's two teams not really getting at each other really, and they've almost balanced it. We've just shaded on the goals. I mean, we can look. We'll talk about them as well. But would you have taken it on Friday night? Absolutely. I mean, that's a cracking weekend for Dundalk. I mean, we're now up to 4th, and it's an unbelievable weekend. I kind of said last week, 4 points would have been handy from the two games, but to come away with all 6, fantastic game in Oriel Park on Friday night. Yeah, look, we could do. It's a weird one because you haven't conceded. It's 2-0, but it's not a great game. But look, a few of them in between some top performances, you'll take them all season. That's they're the kind of games you're not going to remember at the end of the season. We come here at the end of the season, and if we come here at the end of the season and we're remembering games, that's not going to be on the list. But look, it's 3 points. It's a bank holiday Monday, and like Kieran said, all eyes now, and that's unfortunate. The way Dundalk are, no matter what happens on the game night, your eyes are straight on to the next one, because a trip to Sligo Rovers is no easy one for it. It's not a free hit from any team really when they go over there.
No, the other thing about the game was that it started very bright for Dundalk in the sense that we had Ryan O'Kane's opportunity very early on in the game, and then both teams kind of settled, and it wasn't really until in reality that little push before half time when we got the opening goal, neither side really threatened. It never looked like they were, like you just said, guy, came with a scruff of the neck and said, all right, here we are, let's go. And I think that's I don't know whether it was because of the short window between the two games, but somebody did say on Twitter, I think it was Danny O'Connell on Friday night, and said Friday night's result doesn't matter unless you get 3 points today. Yeah. And that is exactly what needed to hollow and ring through. And we now have a benchmark of, okay, we can play okay and still get the win. Now it's that we need to kind of really push on. But like, you see the amount of players that were walking into the changing room at half time that are in Dundalk FC tracksuits because they're injured, and Greg Sloggett, Andy Boyle, poor John Mowney, like all and Louis Ainsley, who we haven't really seen this year, like absolutely top drawer players that we're missing at the moment. Like, imagine if we didn't have them missing. Imagine if we had them ready to go. Like, it could have been a much easier game. Well, not a much easier game, but it could have been a higher scoreline.
Yeah, look, Ellie, and we've been talking about these games before, and very often when you're playing these 3 games in 7 days, it's the Monday one which is the real sticker, because you've no real time to prep and go for this. You look at the changes he made, like actually even having Williams back, a recognised centre half, even that's good just to have him because we've had, Robbie Benson having to play at left back and Leahy having to tuck in and stuff. So, it's more of a structured team of how Skip would probably want us to turn. And as Kieran just mentioned, like it started so brightly. Little did we know it was a sign of things to come. But, Ryan O'Kane's little cut in and his shot, like it's just shown another player when you get dropped or you get taken out of the team or you didn't get the opportunities like Ryan didn't get at the start of the season. You can sulk, you can take the huff. But Ryan's really shown a fantastic attitude to got back in. And that's nearly how he got into the team last year as well. There was an opportunity. He got in, he took it. And then he nearly became, you couldn't help but put his name in because he was turning out these sort of performances. Whatever happened at the start of this year, it didn't overly seem to be kicking in for him. But you can see from coming out of the team and now coming back in again, there's a real hunger there from Ryan. And as I say, that shot at the start of the game was just a sign of things to come for later.
And we spoke about him. I think it was the last show or the show before that. We had said that he hadn't really had he probably hadn't at the start of the season people were expecting. He hasn't played as much when his Tulloch's come in obviously and got his run on the left. But over the last 180 minutes of football, he hit the goals on Friday night in Oriel Park. Like, there's no doubt in his ability. I mean, there's no doubt in this kid's ability. Like, we've talked about him, I don't know, probably not day one since the podcast, but definitely on season 2, we were just talking about him all the time. But there's no doubt in the ability that he has. But when he's on it, I think he's unplayable. He kind of reminds me, he's a mixture of kind of a Mickey Duffy and a Keith Ward. He has everything. I still think he can play in the middle of the park as well, just off the striker. But obviously he's got too much pace to be doing that. But I think he's top class when he's on it. But the problem is he's just had a dodgy run at the start of the season. I was almost worried a couple of weeks with that. He mightn't get back in if Dan Kelly comes back. He mightn't get his jersey. But at the same time, time's on his side. He's still only 15. That's what he feels like. He's a child. You know what I mean? Talking about it, but it goes to show that. And I think it was Tiernan Mulvena on here last year that he had said his training. Like Tiernan, famous. One of the quotes of the season last year. He didn't pick him in his squad at 15 when he development, so he never got picked. And he went away, kind of got his strength and conditioning, got his physique up, his shape. Like you can see him. I met him a couple of weeks ago at the Peter Cherry training. You can see his size. He's an absolute man now. To consider what he was when he came on to the scene when he burst on under O'Donnell a couple of seasons ago.
Stones tied to the ankle.
That's what he must be dragging half the players around with him for training. He's an absolute beast, and that'll set him apart as the season goes on. Hopefully that'll kickstart him now and set him apart. But one thing that you're hoping that happens is that he kicks on from now, and O'Donnell sees it, and hopefully, even if we're talking about players coming in, Pat Hoban comes on the other night, plays the other night. A great game. I think did he get on man of the match the other night? He did, yeah. And then he doesn't start tonight. So, like Kieran was saying, O'Donnell picks a team. You can question it sometime, but tonight it's justified. Unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out in the past. We've had some dodgy games, Shelbourne and stuff like that. But tonight it's been justified. John Martin scored again. But I'm delighted. There's not going to be bigger people delighted, probably from his parents, on O'Donnell than me, because they see him playing and getting goals. It's quality to watch. I think like his strike. Like I know we're skipping on here to the goal, but I mean that he probably won't hit a ball cleaner all season. I mean it's an absolute ping. But yeah, look, delighted for him. Delighted in a bad game. He was the outstanding player. I mean, it really was. Like we'll get to it later, obviously for pizzas. Anybody's queuing up for pizza there, but he was outstanding tonight from start to finish. His work rate, his fitness, his pace. Like his pace doesn't drop. It's frightening how quick he moves. 75, 80, 85 minutes. And people say, oh yeah, he's a professional footballer, but I mean, to run around a field, like that for a game in a league of Ireland Premier Division, I think he's quality. But you're just hoping now to get that little bit of, bit between his teeth now. Hopefully get a game at Sligo on Saturday night. And players like that are going to be needed. They're going to be vital, absolutely vital, especially when Pat Hoban's not playing.
Yeah, but I think even him working with players like Keith Ward and Pat Hoban, like you can see that there's the photograph that was taken of both Hoban and O'Kane on Friday night. Like you can see that they're starting to They're starting to like there looks to be that kind of like not mentoring, but there seems to be the kind of like that relationship. Yeah. Tell us what you're reading, Sally. And it's just but that's important. And then you've got Keith Ward, who's probably one of the most technically gifted players in the league. And he's also playing alongside. Then you have the intelligence of a player like Robbie Benson. But Ryan was starting to do things today that I kind of noticed it now because I kind of had a little bit more focus on it. He's starting to do things that what Keith Ward likes to do. Those little defense splitting passes, those sharp turns, things like that set Keith Ward apart is what Ryan's trying. It seems to be rubbing off on him, and he's training with these lads every week. And like, how is he not improving as a player? But I think he was going to is it Michael Cooney, Fred's functional fitness, not plugging him or anything, but Ryan has been going to him in the off season, and that's where that strength and conditioning has come in. But you can see now that he is starting to bulk up that little bit. He's filling the jersey a wee bit more than he did at the start anyway.
Yeah, look, and Kieran, I suppose another person who's, we're talking about taking chances, and John Martin did get that big chance at the start of the season with Hooben out injured. Probably just for one reason or another, it just didn't work. And we were talking about it only on Friday, Gally, when we mentioned that, just too many injuries all at once, probably all kind of mounted up, and we weren't able to give John Martin a fair service. But he's definitely a player, Kieran, who relishes on getting an opportunity, and he's kind of one of them form players. Like if he gets one, he could get 2, 3, and that proved to be the thing today. I ended up in Weavers Park today, and Paul Crowley was on co-coms, and he said to me before the match, he says, John Martin, watch, he's one of those players, he'll get another one now because he's got one.
Yeah.
And then when we looked at the goal at half time, he said, that's only because he's already scored one. Now he happens to be in the right place at the right time now. Yeah. And like, there's something fortuitous you could say about the goal, Kieran, but you got to be in the right place, haven't you?
Well, it wasn't fortuitous, yes, but he peeled off his defender. First of all, he kind of guided. He kind of knew where the guide of the flight of the ball was going to be, so he knew he had to be in that position, which was a good intelligence for him in that regard. That he knew that the flight of the ball was coming to the back post. He knew he needed to be there in order to get some sort of connection on. But you're right, like the goal that came on Friday night was massive. Not only for him, but for the team. I know the Twitter account for Dundalk had it up today, like John Martin, town legend. That's brilliant for him, and that's brilliant for us because we have to remember he's not an out-and-out striker. When he was down at Waterford, he was kind of like an inside. He was kind of like an inside right. That like he loved that cutting in onto his right foot and hitting these absolutely fantastic strikes, and he did so against Dundalk in I think it was during Filippo Giovignoli's time. It was in between all the Europa League games we played on a Sunday. I think Peter Cherry was in goals, and he was unplayable that day. But that's, as you said, it's a confidence thing with him. But he's also, you can see that some players are starting to come back into the side, and because of that, he's starting to play with a more, as we said, a more structured 11, and because he's working within that paradigm now. That's going to suit him because it's not as if this player's not going to really give me the kind of service because he's like Robbie Benson's playing at left back. You understand where I'm coming from. There's right players in the right positions, and that's only going to lead to hopefully a bit more fluidity when the side. And look, I love Pat. Everybody loves him, but I think we need to start facing the reality that not harping on back to the Stephen Kenny year, but there was goals coming from other places. During that season, like you had other players coming. Like there was a perfectly good goal disallowed today. I have no idea why it was disallowed by the referee. So I think in a lot of respects we need to start looking at how other players are going to contribute to the goals and not just Pat Hoban.
Yeah, Gally, look, we're not saying we're massive influence, but maybe when you were giving out that all our corners were being overhit in shells only 2 matches ago. Clearly, Skip's been working on them ever since. It was just nice to see one finally work because that used to be a massive thing in our arsenal that we could, from set pieces, in particular corners. I know Kieran just mentioned here about the Kenny era, but we used to be lethal at corner kicks that we, centre halves were up and scoring goals. It's great to finally get one again, isn't it?
Yeah, like, and we kind of spoke. Even I'm thinking back straight away to the Shelbourne game where we had Davis it was just cross after cross to nowhere, to nothing.
Yeah.
And in fairness, Davis actually had a really good game today. I thought someone was crossing, but he was actually really good, really decent today. Yeah, but it's nice to just have that little outlet again. Like we are probably, look, as Kieran said, you don't want to go back to the Kenny era, but you're probably, like, when you've got Darren Meenan, who regular on this show commented, and he was crossing in balls. We don't have that type of player at the minute. You're hoping the likes of Ryan O'Kane. Tulloch for me isn't that type of player. He's just an out-and-out winger, can do damage with his pace and running the players, but we haven't had it for a while. It's nice just to have that option, because then you're not heavily reliant on, right, let's get Pat in front of the first centre half, get him to drop in for the ball. You can use that as an outlet, because there's no point in having him there doing that. No. If the ball will be whipped in then when he's on the second run. But it's just nice to have something a little bit different. So, like Kieran was saying, we can have, years ago we had, I don't know how many assists and goals came from the wing, but there was a massive spread, like I think Darren Meenan had the record, like 43 assists in a season in the league's campaign. And mental, that's a stupid stat. Like, it's crazy.
I think James Rogers came up with it. Like, he was like from corners and from opportunity, from crosses. Like, it was I think it was during the 2015 season. He was just unplayable.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And like, it's not that players can't. It's not that we don't have players to do it. It's just they're just not that way inclined at the minute. But it's just nice to have that outlet. So we're not at the risk of repeating myself. We're not heavily reliant on Pat to drop deep when he is playing. Again, like John had said there, Flano had said, it's not that we're not. We probably do in our own heads when Pat's now playing. We obviously who's going to come in and fill the shoes? Nobody. There's not a player that's going to come in and fill those boots. But John's come in last two games in particular. He's been excellent. And in fairness to him, he had an excellent season last year when he did come in. He just, just probably hasn't got going this season. And you're hoping for himself, O'Kane, even, Williams getting the game tonight. Archie Davis, I thought was very good. I was critical of him at the start of the season. I hate to use the cliche kickstart the season. It's not kickstarting the season because we're well into our second round of games. Yeah. But you need to carry that momentum now, albeit it's a poor performance from everybody on the field. Not a poor performance, it's a poor game. You're hoping you can carry that in there. Right, we're 2-0 up, we haven't conceded. We won on Friday night. We're going to carry it to Sligo on Saturday. And that's all you can really ask. So just take it game by game and not think too far ahead, because go on,
sorry, go ahead, just finish your point.
No, I was just going to say, like, we brought up the table 2 or 3 weeks ago, or 2 games ago, and we were 8th, and we were a bad 8th. Yeah. And I was saying that Bows have really set the cat amongst the pigeons, because they've taken a spot that wouldn't normally be there for them. And it means we're pushed down, we're moving our way down, because there's a team that's not expected. But now after the day, we're up to 4th, I think. I haven't checked the table, but I think we're up to 4th. So
be there later on, don't you worry.
It's a couple of that's just a plug for later. It's a couple of games, and that's how it changes for you. And you're just hoping that you go out now and just carry that momentum for the next couple of matches. And again, like Kieran had mentioned, it's so frustrating with the injuries, and you almost forget. I mean, we said before, we forgot Paul Doyle played for us. We hadn't seen him at the start of the season. Louis Ainsley as well. I thought he had an excellent couple of games at the start. Players like that, Flano had said, Andy Boyle, these are players you need. If you're going to try and do anything in League of Ireland, you need your top players fit and ready to go. We haven't even mentioned Robbie Benson tonight. Comes off the field. Kieran, how long did he get in the pitch? A minute?
He would have been on for about 70, 75 minutes before he came off. But funny enough, I was talking to Sam Bone was there today. He's over the weekend, and he says he's just picking up stuff, the last remnants before he moves back over to Maidstone. And he even said, "Look, that doesn't look great. It looks like he might have come off injured." So that's something we're going to have to kind of factor in. But you're just talking there, Gally, about just even our midfield, like a player who today really impressed me by not doing an awful. I'm not saying not doing an awful lot, but he did like the good things right. And that was Alfie Lewis. Like, Alfie Lewis is kind of floating under the radar at the moment. He's getting the job done. He's doing a lot of things. So could you imagine at the moment if we had the likes of Alfie Lewis, Paul Doyle, Greg Slogan and Robbie Benson as a midfield quartet that we're able to choose from? I mean, that's frightening. It's frightening for any opposition team, never mind us. And then you have our wingers and things. So, like, at this moment in time, you've got Robbie Benson, who's 50-50. Greg Slogan, I don't know how long he's going to be out for. And also, and then you've Daniel Kelly and Paul Doyle's working his way back into the midfield. Like, we're still not at full capacity. I know we're one series into games, but we're at May and we still haven't played what I feel to be our strongest and our best 11 this season because of the way things have factored out. And that's the most disappointing thing, because you're looking at Bows. Bows have been settled. They've got a really settled 11. Declan Devine has them playing a really good brand of football, and it's worked out really well, but they've gotten that rub of the green. Dundalk have great players at their disposal, but they haven't gotten the rub of the green due to injuries. And that's what's the most frustrating thing. It's so inconsistent. It's inconsistency is the biggest flaw on us right now.
I suppose someone who's also a little inconsistent at the moment seems to be Tulloch. He in and out of games. I felt for him today because at the end of the first half there, he kind of does his normal little jinx galley to get into a position, and then he's kind of leaning back and it kind of goes fully askew. When you put that then on the other side, Ryan O'Kane came out of the team for a while and then came back in, and his form has obviously increased. What do you make of Tulloch at the moment? Is it a thing of, if we had other options at the moment, perhaps Skip might give him a break?
Yeah, I think if Dan Kelly and Ryan O'Kane are firing, fit and firing on all cylinders, for me they'd start. But for me, there's a bit more beef about Tulloch. Tulloch's a bit more of he's almost like John Martin. He's that kind of, he'd be a bit of a no-nonsense kind of winger, if there is such a thing. But like Colin had said there, he's in serious, and we mentioned last week or the week before, there was a couple of tweets out if he's a one-trick pony. There's that wee bit of worry about him that he could be found out. I said it Friday night.
I think we were saying on Friday, it's probably his age more than anything, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What age
as well, I think he's only about 21.
Oh, he's about 15. He's right, okay. He's young. Like, I mean, I don't even know how many games. I don't even know if he was on loan before from West Brom. He's young and inexperienced. I mean, there's no better league that'll either galvanise him as a footballer or put him off playing football, League of Ireland, because it's tough. I mean, it's, pitches, defenders. But
he's 22, guys. 22.
Yeah, so even at 22.
Not gonna write him off, but
no, absolutely not. No, but I mean, he's come in. He's definitely hit the ground running. But
yeah,
the worry for me is that full backs will find him out very quick. Like, Andrew Quinn had a tough time against him against Shelbourne, but the only thing that Andrew Quinn was lacking against Shelbourne was more pace. If he was quicker, Tulloch probably doesn't get the opportunity he got. But I just think he needs to. The thing about Tulloch, he's very, very quick at running at you. The problem is that if you can keep up with him, I think he's very susceptible. He's very easy to take the ball off. What we need to get with him, and it goes back to Kieran's point about the midfield. If Alfie Lewis is on it, Greg Sloggett, Mali for me would still start. He needs to get a bit more stuck into the game. He needs to find a proper pair of Theodore, Roy Keane boots there to get himself stuck into a match. But Tulloch needs to be played in behind the fullback. He needs to get in on that wing, because when he did get in,
like Fine's goal,
exactly, yeah, and that's what's needed. Because I feel if he runs at a player with a ball, he does the same thing over and over and over again. The one time he cut in against Shelbourne, he scored. Now the circumstances, the way the defenders moved, allow him to do that, but that's the only danger with him. I'd like to see if Dickie Kelly's back. I'd like to see John Martin go back out onto the right, and Ryan O'Kane get the left, just to see. And because if you think about it from just a normal point of view, if you're a centre half or you're a right back or full back, and you're playing against Ryan O'Kane for, we'd say, 70 minutes, and then you have to deal with Tulloch coming off the bench, you're going to absolutely be hockeyed out of it. Like, Tulloch will have the legs to run past you every single time. So, the danger with him is that he becomes very obvious to mark.
Yeah.
But I don't think, like we said the same about, who do we, can't think of his name, my name's gone blank. We said the same about, we said the same about him before, that, when he came in, they kind of hit a whirlwind. They kind of really got going. Tulloch had a really good start of the season. Yeah. But he's not playing well enough to start. Yeah, he's not playing well enough to get into the lineup every week. And I think I said that about 3 podcasts ago. But the circumstances of injuries will allow it. I still say give John Martin back on the right with Pat Hubert in the middle. But again, this game didn't dictate that. Obviously, Stephen O'Donnell had it set up for UCD in particular. But I'd like to see that him maybe come off the bench against a Sligo Rovers at the weekend and see what he's like. he kind of almost flip-flop between Martin and Tulloch at the very start. There's flip-flop between striker and winger at the start of the match. But I think he could possibly need a bit of not a spell on the bench, but maybe a game to come off the bench, watch the game and see what he can do with the fullbacks. Because I think the more he starts the match, I think fullbacks are going to find him out very quickly. Whereas Ryan O'Kane, you don't get that because Ryan O'Kane can go either direction. He can play inside as well. Dickie Kelly's the same. But Tulloch, I think he's a much better player than what he's shown. You know, to sum up the original question, he's a much better player than what he's shown, but he's not, I don't know what the best way to put it. A one-trick pony's harsh. I don't want them to use that phrase. I think it's a bit harsh on him. But for me as a fullback, you know, John Flanagan played fullback. He would know, like, if you can get what a player's going to do before the game starts, the game's over. It's half done before you start. So, and his turn of pace is excellent, but he just doesn't have that mental attitude that Ryan O'Kane would have. For me, Ryan O'Kane's a much stronger player mentally, that he knows he can go either way on a defender, whereas Tulloch, I think, lacks that little bit of mental discipline to probably take a player on properly either side. And I would just give him, for me, you know, I would give him, if Pat Hubin's fit and John Martin's fit, I would have O'Kane, Hubin, Martin for the Sligo game and give Tulloch a run from the bench and see how it goes.
Do you think,
Kieran, just before though, just to be fair to Tulloch as well, like I just checked out, like this is only his third ever loan, and he's played more senior games with us than anyone else. So he was with Doncaster previously, only played 2 games. Rochdale only played 7 games, and you know he's played 7 with us now and scored. He got 4 goals already this year.
Yeah. I just kind of on what Gally's saying there, like when you're comparing Ryan O'Kane to Rehan Tulloch, in terms of experience, it's light and day. Rehan has gone from under 23 football, as a lot of people know over there. It's non-competitive. It's you're playing with your pals. You're playing with, you know, I know him from when I had trials at, you know, West Brom, and I know him from there's no intensity. It's where you learn certain particular coaching tactics and styles of plays and phases of play. Whereas Rehan now is coming into a very experienced League of Ireland setup where I know that some people will disagree with me on this, but I think in the past, probably we're looking at the past 10 years, there's been a quantum leap in how players are prepared, tactics like strength and conditioning, diets, all of that has completely changed in the last 10 years. I remember interviewing Danny Lafferty last year, and he said before he went away, like it was literally a case of 1 to 11, go out and play. There was no talk of set pieces, tactics, phase, or anything like that. Whereas that's now all part of the game because it's completely improved significantly. I think Rehan, I think you're a little bit right. I'm not saying that he's naive, but I'm saying that he has a lot of ability, but he's lacking that experience. And I think, but when you look at Ryan O'Kane knows nothing but senior football.
Yeah.
Because he's been playing it even at his young age, he's been playing senior football at that level for such a long time. So he knows what's expected. He's got experience at the league. He knows his opposition players. I don't think Rehan knows that as yet. I think he'll have a much better understanding now that he's gotten the first league kind of series of games underneath his belt. I don't think he's a one-trick pony. I just think that he's lacking that little bit of... I think you're right. I think he needs to observe a little bit more and see exactly what's expected of him. And then he might be able to... His decision-making needs to improve. But that's only going to come when he's 22 years of age. We can't be writing him off. Like, there are clubs in England looking at him. There's clubs, like, very, very interested in him.
I think you can see something there, though, Kieran. You can definitely see something in that player. Like, there's without a doubt. And it's about us as a club maximising his strengths out of it, isn't it? Like, if he has these, you know, working with senior players for a full season or as long as we can have him, he will improve as a player. And he'll be looking at the decisions that Gally, like you just meant, you know, Dickie Kelly does or Ryan O'Kane does, and then you'll kind of think, well, you know, next time I'm in that position, that's what I should do. Or, you know, learning these extra traits. I think you're right. I think his excellent skill to get himself into really, really smart positions. It's just having this extra know-how in that split second to think, if I do something different now, I've got a defender second guessing what I'm going to do. Like we talked about a Gali on Friday against Drogheda. He just tried to go physical against one of Drogheda's most physical defenders instead of, like we said, trying to create space for somebody else maybe to come in. Look, to go back to the game, lads, before we go way off track down a Tulloch hole.
Pardon the pun.
Exactly. Two big chances, Gali, as well for UCD in this game, because it's only 1-0. It's a dangerous lead to have. On the hour mark, there's the one where Norris shoots and it's saved, but Shep kind of pushes it back into the middle. Thankfully, there's nobody coming in too quickly that he's able to get on it at the second attempt. And then, of course, there's the Doyle chance at the end that hits a player on the ground and he's unlucky not to curl it in. When I seen the tweets coming up, saying there's a chance, I thought this is the Bulls results from Friday all over again, isn't it?
And even just aside from the two chances, there was actually a ball. I don't know if it was before the last chance or it was after we had scored. It was played right across diagonal on the box, and if anybody had come streaming in, full back, right winger, they probably had half the net to shoot because Sheps hadn't got across. But there was nobody there, and that's always the danger. I think it might have been at 1-0 because I remember thinking this is going to be one of those games, and I wouldn't have taken that if we were 2-0 up. But yeah, look, they've had, although they've had probably, in the fairness to UCD, they probably had more of the ball in the first half. But chances, it was just that kind of game. They didn't really create much. I mean, the save that you've mentioned with Sheps, I wouldn't say it's standard, but I mean, you'll always get half pot chances like that in a game of football where the keeper can not spill it, but I mean pass it back in. But that's the difference with UCD and a real top team. If you're playing the likes of maybe Bows on the run that they're on, or not so much Derry tonight, but Rovers, even Sligo, you're going to get someone to come in and top you there and punish you for that. But they create enough to probably score, probably in the first half, possession wise. But like I keep saying, there's no point in having the ball if you're not going to do anything with it. Possession can be. It's great to have the ball all the time. You're controlling the game, but they've definitely controlled it early on. But the chance they have, for me, the biggest chance they had was the one that actually went across the box that there was nobody on. They'll actually kick themselves for that, because I think that would have made it 1-1 and with the 88th, maybe something like that. And that could have you're not going to get Rhino Kane probably doesn't get his chance then.
Yeah.
But the save, I can't remember the sub that came on. But he was a nuisance, played kind of left forward. I can't remember his name. I just can't remember the pronunciation of it. But he was a nuisance for the first couple of minutes he was on. Like, he could have really done some damage. But yeah, the half chance, that I think Kieran had mentioned earlier, not getting the rub of the green. That little chance probably is the little bit of the rub of the green that we got of the whole game, because we've had a goal chalked off for offside earlier on. I don't know if it's interfering with the goalkeeper. I'm not really sure what it's for. It's for offside.
I don't know how, because he was.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's
that really frustrated me, because
like if VAR's on it, it's probably rescinded. It's probably given, but I don't think there's a lot in it. I mean, look, we can talk about the refs, but I don't think there's a lot in it for an offside. I mean, it's not like he's touched the ball into the net. The keeper probably wouldn't have got there anyway. But look, that but their chance that the rub of the green we're getting is that shot. I think it's Doyle, you said, Chris, was it?
Yeah.
That on another day it probably goes into the back, and then if he puts it anywhere else, it's probably in. But that's the wee rub of the green. If we're going to get any, that's probably going to get it. There we go. Yeah. That's probably a nice little bonus that we got, that we were able to keep that clean sheet. And if that goes in, look, it probably, it's going to change the outcome, because then O'Kane doesn't get his chance in the row. But yeah, look, if they're the only chance you're giving up in the game, we're doing all right. I don't think UCD merited really much from it. I mean, they've probably had, like I said, they've been more the ball in the first half, but apart from that, it's been one of those games that we've had decent chances and we've taken them. And there's from a footballer perspective, there's not a lot in the game. Kieran was at the game, so it could be completely different from being a spectator at the match. But look, I think we give them chances every week at the teams. If we're going to get that little bit of rub of the green like Archie Davis got. I think
you've nailed it on the head. I think we needed that win, if that makes sense. Like, we got the 90-minute winner on Friday night, which was just brilliant, because it was a big confidence boost and it was in a derby and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know who put it up on Twitter. It was like the mark of a good team is scoring in the 90th minute, but the mark of a bad team is the 2 goals that we gave away on Friday night. But in this instance, apart from those couple of opportunities where defensively we should have controlled the situation an awful lot better, not allowing UCD to press as high as they did at that stage of the game. It was a case of just seeing the game out, and we almost gifted them a goal, through hesitancy. And it'll be a big, as John just put it there, it was a big confidence boost that they got the clean sheet. But once again, we score in the 90 plus minutes, which shows that we're still going to be meriting one last chance, and we're going to have to take it, which I think is another mark of this side that we need to kind of really work on, is that we need to really, really push to the very end, because you can see that there have been a couple of games where we've been extremely frustrated, and by 85 minutes, you're blowing your cheeks out and going, "Oh, let's just get to the 90th minute." But John, I think you're right as well. We have to be honest with the situation as well. UCD, where if they had gotten something from the game, I would have been extremely disappointed, because I don't think they really kind of got through us at any stage.
I think John's point though before that though, Kieran, as well, was
but there wasn't much else.
Yeah, but the unfortunate thing is the 2 big chances the UCD has were probably errors that we had and presented opportunities. Like it was the same against Drogheda on Friday, and they took those chances and nearly got full point, or they probably got a point back in the game if it wasn't for a late winner. I think you look at that, and you look at Darren Mean's comments tonight as well. It's all about sometimes teams are running through us in the middle. We're making errors. We're not doing the simple things. How do we turn that around?
Paul Doyle. Paul Doyle is just that. I'm just going to be quite honest. He is the closest thing that we get to a fella that I want to put a black cape over his head and gift wrap him back to Oriel Park from Belfast, and his name is Chris Shields. I don't think we can do that somehow, but
I think they used to do that sort of kidnapping in Belfast all the time though.
Yeah, Flano's right, and it's that's exactly Sloggett. Like
Sloggett or Doyle.
I remember Sloggett when he first signed. I thought this mightn't work at all. I mean, he's a fantastic footballer, and then he had that year with himself and Stanton, for under Filippo and that, and you kind of didn't know where he was going to play. But for the last 18 months, he's been probably the most key. I know we talk about Robbie Benson coming back in, but for me, Sloggett's been absolutely outstanding. And when a player like that's missing, it's massive. Like, no matter who you have coming in. I mean, he's not on the Chris Shield levels, but I mean, like, he's a massive, massive player.
I remember the Derry City match. They were talking about Sloggett pre-game, and it was like, and they said, "Oh, Sloggett was excellent for UCD, and he was great for us, but he's lost his way since he went to Dundalk." And I nearly punched the TV because I was kind of going, "Where does this commentator think he's going?" And it was the point that I actually even texted Greg later on that evening and said it to him. I said, "Did you hear what the?" And he said, "Yeah, my mother texted me that. I'm flabbergasted." To be fair, it was ridiculous. It was he himself has also played, if I'm not mistaken, under 3 managers. He's played under Vinny, he's played under Filippo, now he's played under Stevie, and he had a okay start under Vinny. He wasn't anything exceptional, but I think Stephen has instilled an awful lot of confidence in him. And I have no problem in saying this. European football really suits him as well. You can see in those European games, he was absolutely he was relishing the opportunity of playing in those games, especially when he went all Samson and cut his hair. But but in saying that, he's just the fact that people are even questioning him at this stage was ridiculous. But he's the linchpin of the side. Him and Doyle are 2 players that are definitely options that we need.
Yeah. Right, Kieran, we better give him his moment. Gally, talk us through the second goal. Lurking. Go for it.
I'm going to sit back.
We've probably been waiting. We've seen Ryan O'Kane score some fantastic. He scores some really good goals. And look, the one last Friday's excellent as well. Cracking one. I mean, the tone of pace against the fullback. I don't know if it was a fullback or centre half. Actually, I'm thinking. But
he runs in between 2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Tonight is just. icing on the, like, he's had a fantastic game, regardless of the goal. He's had a fantastic game. His work rate was savage. You know, but for the strike alone, like, I can't remember who's giving him the ball, but his little cut in onto the right, that's exactly what we're looking for. And he's probably, there's not like, I don't want to keep comparing him to Keith Ward, but only him and Keith Ward could probably score that. I mean, I think there's a bit of, you know, Mali can definitely get a, when Mali, if he, not say if he turned up, but Mali could be top class if he, like, so I think somebody had tweeted about him playing in slippers, and that's exactly what Mali's problem is. But for me, it's a cracking strike. I mean, there's nothing really, there's nothing else you can really say about it. It's a strike that's he's probably badly needed that goal. Whatever about Friday night in the derby, a strike like that has all. It just goes to show what potential this fella has. You know, he's not just quick, pacey, you know, athletic. He can absolutely ping a ball. I mean, come on to his right and do that. It's just top class. The lighted for him. You can, like, even the, well, I don't know what you call them. Do you call them commentators? Kabosh and Uch the Rocha there from D4 in Dublin. But to me, even they were kind of shouting down the line. Even they were shouting down the microphone. It was an absolute.
Except
not past the watershed yet, so that's to be careful.
Yeah.
An absolute ton of goal. Fantastic. Like, real quality. And the build-up was nice. I just can't remember who passed him. Somebody might have to remind me, but take it out from your feet. And he could have passed it. There was a pass on. He could have easily passed it, you know, tried a little side pass in, but he took it on. There's, you know, doesn't matter where the keeper is in the net. He's hit it that far into the stanchion. It's top class. Like, delighted for him. Delighted for, like, we met his dad at the we done the live show at the end of the season last year, Chris, for the sports awards, and he spoke to Tony as well, the grandfather, and delighted for them. I could only imagine the roars that went up. I don't know if they were at the game themselves, but I could only imagine the roars were up when he pinged it in. And yeah, delighted, absolutely. There we go, Alfie Lewis. Thanks, Patsy. But yeah, top class. Delighted. Like, you know, I messaged in that I won't say what I put into the group chat that we have, but like straight away, like, it was just pandemonium, cracking. I'm probably only sick that it wasn't a 90. It wasn't 0-0 and it was a 1-0 win, but to get the winner. But yeah, look, top class. Delighted.
I think
hearing that to for him as well.
Sorry.
No,
I think it's just
the same, you know.
confidence that he has at the moment that he's taking those kind of shots on, because that requires a particular set of, you know, it takes bravery and it takes that little bit of intelligence, and that's exactly what he has. Like, he kind of gave a bit of a warning shot earlier on in the game where he had an opportunity that just went over. Like, he could have scored 2 goals of the season or goals in a month, you know, in one game. Like, I'm laughing at Gavin putting up the thing of, you know, oh, here's May goal of the month and it's only the 1st of May, you know. It's going to take an awful lot to kind of to beat it, but that'll resonate now through the side now, and that'll just show that there's, if you have to take your opportunities, like Rayhan Tulloch took one against Shells, and he just saw that wee bit of a gap in an opening, took it. John Martin there on Friday, Ryan O'Kane today. Let's hope there's just something clicking. Really just something clicking at the moment. It's you know, I don't want to go back to it like the phrase rubber the green, because I don't want to sound like a complete cliche, but we've just been lacking that bit of luck, and I think we're starting to get a wee bit of it now. And the first series of games were quite difficult at times. Let's just hope that the second series might be a little bit easier.
And also, just to add, to have these shots outside the box as well, because we said it before, they were in danger of playing too much football. Like, they were trying to pass the thing to death. Let's if an opportunity presents itself, let's take it on. You know, I'd like to know, like, Pat Hubin's obviously in the box. I don't know how many score from outside the box, but when you've got players like that behind them, so they can facilitate that type of shot, I'm all for it. Like, you know, obviously you don't want to, if it's early on in the game and you're cruising, if the pass is on, take it. But, you know, it's nice to have that kind of goal from outside the box, because we don't get the amount of screamers that we used to. You know, it's all kind of, you know, labour and kind of, you know, pass your way in and around the defenders. And look, that's great. It has its time, but you also need, right, let's get the ball down and try and ping it into the top corner.
It's also though, Gally, another defender coming up against Ryan now is going to
Yeah.
think like, is he going to try to drop his shoulder and get to the byline and cut it back in now, or is he going to take me on? Is he going to shoot early? You're going to be second guessing when he approaches you each and every time now. So like even to have that in his locker now, he's not as predictable as like we were talking about Tulloch earlier. Kind of maybe that's part of his issue at the moment, that he's a little too predictable. Towards Ryan is just shown like past 2 games, 2 completely different types of goals. So he's adding these extra layers to his game as he goes, and to put goal scoring in there now is even better.
Yeah, and like I remember we said years ago, we had the likes of Will Patching. I know we didn't do it for us as much probably at Derry, but the likes of Patrick McElhenney, Mickey Duffy, it wasn't a score of goals, it was a score of cracking goals. And that's what we want to get from Ryan O'Kane as well. We'd like to get that in the line. Yeah, for the play and his passing ability, his defensive work can be very good as well because he's so fit. But it's that quality of goal, if you can get a few of them out of him every couple of weeks, that's all you can ask for. Like, I mean, we don't want to keep comparing him to other people that have gone before him, but to have that little bit of that little bit of nous, that little bit of say, right, I'm not afraid to get this. Like Kieran said, I'm not afraid. I got this confidence.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it on, and a tight enough game at the time, only 1-0. So, you're in danger of putting the ball into the trees and then going back down the field. But he's absolutely leathered it and hit it perfect. And that's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose, Kieran, we'll come to it now. This is somewhat of a landslide. I'm not going to lie to you on the old comments tonight, but for yourself, for the man of the match competition, this is just anyone who hasn't come in yet, this is their last chance just to be in as part of it. Kieran, your man of the match tonight.
Man of the match for an all-round very good performance, and to top it off with a cracking goal, Ryan O'Kane.
Gally.
Yeah, I didn't beat about the bush on Friday night either. I was straight in with Pat Hubin, but yeah, Ryan O'Kane. I mean, there isn't really any. Could you argue maybe Archie Davis, maybe John Martin? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any real. I mean, even without the goal, look, Ryan O'Kane all day. It's a long time since we've given Ryan O'Kane a pizza. We were giving him consistently for a couple of weeks last season. But it's a long time since we've given it an award for pizza for Ryan O'Kane. So I think that could be the first one of the season. But yeah, no, Ryan O'Kane all day, twice on Saturdays.
That gets me out of a hole concern. I didn't see the game to have to pick somebody, so I'm only too delighted about that. So that's Ryan O'Kane's first man of the match win of the season for ourselves. So congratulations to John O'Connor there, who's our random pick.
If we were really thinking now, we should have given out a spice bag. Going by the commentators earlier on, the 2T4 lads should have asked Vinny for a spice bag.
And thanks as always to Tony's Pizzeria for their continued support for our man of the match competition. So I seen bits and pieces of the Sligo match earlier. Max Mata with another header at the back post. Kieran, it's never easy traveling over there anyway, but because it's also going to be a Saturday game, so we're going to know what results are going to be already in. We're going to know what's needed of us, whether do we need 3 points just to stay in the pace, or what way that goes. What way do you see that going, and what do you think? Do you think we'll have more changes from Skip again? Bear in mind, it looked like he has rested 1 or 2 tonight, and he's come away with the 3 points, so it's ideal for him.
First thing is he needs to see where Robbie Benson is sitting. That'll be the first kind of concern that he'll have come tomorrow. The only saving grace is that the game's not on Friday; it's on Saturday, which gives him that kind of just that extra day for preparation. I think he'll have to definitely look into maybe into the squad and see. But as I did mention at the beginning of this game, Stephen will pick the side that he feels is best to counteract what kind of Sligo Rovers side that they're looking into. And Sligo Rovers will feel very, very aggrieved that they didn't leave Tala with something the other night, and now they've got a result against St. Pat's, which was a huge, huge win for them. So, this Sligo side are kind of flattering to deceive a little bit.
Yeah.
I think they're a very, very good, technically good side. They were in absolutely no doubt. They were worthy winners at the time that they came to play us in Oriel Park a couple of weeks ago. So spoke to Greg Bulger after it, and he said, "Yeah, we did enough to get the win. Like there was no question of it." So, all in all, I think we're in for a tough night. But like, I remember going to Sligo years ago and be like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be a good game.
Right.
We'll get the win." Like I don't feel that way now. Sligo under John Russell have really, he's really understands what it like. As we have to remember, Sligo for a long time were bringing in kind of managers from outside the league, and some of them worked and some of them didn't work. I think John knows the league. He knows exactly what's expected, and he has signed players to reflect that. But they've kind of ventured a little bit out of the conventional transfer market and have brought in players like Max Mata and Nico Kranjčar, who are just absolutely fantastic players. And I mean, they're flattered to see, but there could be a real surprise package for the European places this year. It wouldn't shock me. And you can only see their performances last year in Europe. They were absolutely brilliant. So all in all, it's going to be a very, very tough night. But I think Stephen will have to be very tactically astute. And this could be the game in which you'd have to look at the likes of bringing in Paul Doyle to complement Alfie Lewis in midfield, to kind of make sure that back four is very well shored up. And then Hayden Muller, as you said, I know that he's currently got the slippers. He might need to put on the Puma Kings at this stage. And, we are looking at, but if it's a case that Pat Hoban's fully fit, John Martin, get him on the wing, get him to cut inside, give him that creative outlet. It could really, really work well, and I think it might bring some more balance to the side.
Yeah, Gary, look, we waxed lyrical last year, about Aidan Keena and his goal scoring prowess.
Yes.
Somehow they've managed to just replace it with Max Mata. It's amazing find and great player for them, I suppose, for them to have. But it's a big, big test against us, and we've been talking about our back line kind of being stuck together at times. This is going to be a real major test, a player of his prowess.
Yeah, and his goal, I still remember his goal in Oriel a couple of weeks ago. Real clever play from Sligo. Now, in fairness, it's come from our breakdown again. I think John Flanagan mentioned earlier on, 2 goals or 2 chances tonight from our fault. The goals against Sligo were our fault as well. It was 2 silly mistakes in midfield. I think the second was from a throw-in late on in the game. But yeah, great finish. Matt is a real, it's only when you see him up close, he's a real top player. I think Levick as well. Is that how you pronounce that surname? He had a really decent game as well. Yeah, look, we mentioned John Russell last season. Like his coaching Sligo are real tough. Now, the problem with Sligo is you could get, it depends what night you get them on. You could moulder them one night. They've taken some really bad beatings over the last couple of seasons. But like Kieran had said, there's never a good time to play them. I mean, but that's the way of League of Ireland nearly all the time. It doesn't really matter who you're playing, but you're hoping Pat Hoban can start. And maybe that's the thinking for tonight. Maybe get just certain minutes in and maybe they play the card tonight and it's worked out for them. Would they get away with a John Martin up top? I don't think so. But look, what do we know at the end of the day? You know what I mean? I'd like to see, everybody wants to see Pat Hoban starting. It's a different game when he's starting a match. You've seen it against Drawdy with the minutes he played. He brings so many people into the game. The big thing now is at the back. We don't know what the story is with the midfielders at the minute with Benson. We're not sure yet what it is. If Sam Bowen said it looks dodgy, then look, that guy's played football. He knows what he's looking at. But if we can get it right at the back, then I'm saying we're getting right at the back. We can see that we didn't concede tonight. So 2 hours on Friday night as well. So I think it's just the Pat Hoban thing. We don't want to keep saying it every week. He has to start, but he has to start. That is literally it. I mean, there is no. The problem we have, it's not a problem. It's a great problem to have. There is nobody that can play the way Pat Hoban plays, and it's never been more evident now. And we missed it for parts of last season as well. I still remember somebody on the podcast last year saying he was player of the season. And he's missed most of it. Not most of it, but probably a quarter of it. He's still player of the season. I think he might have been Tiernan. And it's right. He was rightly up there in the running for it. But I'd like to see him start. I'd like to see O'Kane, Hoban, and John Martin, because I think John Martin gives you that little bit of strength. And John Russell will be clever enough to know how to deal with Tulloch, and that's John Martin's that type of player that you don't know what you're going to get on the right wing with him. He's kind of you know, we said he's a different type of winger than what we're used to at the club. He's the complete opposite of Ryan O'Kane because he's so strong. He's good in the air. You know, that little bit of an option. Tulloch for me wouldn't be great in the air. Dan Kelly for his height could do better in the air. I've seen him miss so many headers up in Oriel Park over the seasons. But John Martin with Pat Hooban, Pat Hooban with John Martin running off and Ryan O'Kane on the other end could be exactly what we need for Sligo. But again, look, like Kieran said, we don't know what injuries. Like the boys who go training during the weekend, the luck we're having, we could have 3 or 4 injuries. You know, touch wood. That's what happens, and it just seems to be we just can't get that level of consistency needed to put a proper team out. Like Kieran said it early on in the podcast. We probably haven't put out our best 11 yet.
No.
I'm trying to. The first game of the season.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. We had Archie Davis, we had Boyle, Ainlesey, and Leahy at the back. At that first game of the season, maybe. No, it wasn't actually because Ainlesey played left back.
No, because some of the other lads didn't come out. So when you think of some of the new recruits, it was probably the Pats 5-0 victory. Would have been as close to it as we could have got.
Yeah,
and so that's a real issue. Yeah, you know, so that's always a worry when you're going to pick a team to play against anybody if you don't have the full volume of players to pick from it. But I think the lads are getting enough minutes under their belt now. They can say, right, we give them a game, go over there. I think the ground, like we keep saying every week, I don't want a broken record, but the pitch will suit us. Oriel Park, I actually think doesn't suit some of the players that we have at the minute. So I think the likes of Mali can come into his own on a grass pitch tonight. Look, and Kieran, we probably have overlooked, Kieran had said it, Alfie Lewis as well. You know, really, when he's on it, he's a top footballer. Playmaker for the team when he's going.
He did the simple things right today.
Yeah.
That was the one thing about him, you weren't looking for anything spectacular of him. He just did his job, but he made it look so easy. So I'd love to see what would happen when he really has to go, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's where if Doyle comes in or when Doyle comes back or Slogger, I think Alfie Lewis could be let loose a little bit with Mali up a little bit further up. I know he's a playmaker, he comes a little bit deep, but I'd let him loose further up the field because funnily enough, he started that way against Shelbourne a couple of weeks ago. And the first 10, 12 minutes, he was outstanding. And then drifted back in. I don't know if that was just on Skip's orders, but he just kind of drifted back down towards the defence. And it just kind of, it didn't really work. And I just think more, if you've got Slogger or Doyle, it's easier to send him a little bit more up the field. And I'd like to, you know, if we can get everybody back fit, you know, that's what you'd be looking for ideally.
Mm-hmm. Just in relation to Slogger, I was it the Derry City game that he got injured, or was it before that? I can't remember specifically. Or was it Andy Boyle? Was it Andy Boyle that got injured in the warm up against Derry?
That's a good. I don't know actually. I can't remember. And Derry.
No, was it not last time there that Greg got injured up on that pitch?
That's
up in Derry. Yeah.
It was Andy who got warm up.
Yeah, Slogger's injury was at Oriel. I don't know who we were playing though.
Yeah.
But it's just like, look, when you've got players, look, we can talk about injuries. I said it a couple of weeks ago, but these players are signed. You've got a squad there. There's a good enough squad there if they're set up right. You know, there's just too many inconsistencies. So there's no doubt in my mind Mali is a top player. He just doesn't seem to, I don't know what it is. He just hasn't really hit the ground running yet. And he's due an absolute blinder. And look, he's decent, but he can play much better. You can see it on him. Even though we haven't witnessed it yet, you know that there's a top footballer in there. So we can get those players and the likes of Ryan O'Kane coming in. And I think O'Kane, Hooban, John Martin's the way to go. But look, you just don't know with the way the squads are. We just don't know who the lineup's going to be. We're shocked today that Hooban's not starting. So, you know, you just don't know what Skip's thinking. And sometimes it works. It's worked today. You know, we just have to see.
Yeah. Kieran, I think you actually think it might have been right. I think it might have been the 2-2 draw with Derry, would it, in Oriel?
Yeah.
I think Greg went off could have gone off on that one. Right, guys, just to start a bit of housekeeping. So we'll have a quick look at the table and see, just to confirm that Shamrock Rovers beat Derry 2-0 tonight as well. So having a look at that then, Bow stay top on 28 points. Shamrock Rovers now move into second on 24 points. Derry only 3 points ahead of us in third. Dundalk are in fourth on 19 points, level with Sligo Rovers. So that really shows the importance now of Saturday's game. Both teams are a point ahead of Shelbourne, who drew with Drogheda United tonight. Pats further behind after that loss to Sligo today are seventh on 17 points. Gap then of 3 points back to Drogheda, and another gap then to Cork and UCD. So that really does say a lot about the importance, lads, for the game on Saturday. Now, for it. So you're just trying to stay with this pack for the moment. Gally, you were kind of saying that third, fourth is kind of where we were hoping to be, and you just want to stay with that pack, because when European football comes in, we're going to get stretched a little bit further. So I suppose it's probably about how many points can we pick up now.
Exactly, yeah. And you need to be beaten, look, you're disappointed when you're beaten 4-0 by Sligo or by Shamrock Rovers. Them games will come and go, but it's teams around you need to be taking points off, because that's what's going to count at the end of the day. And I think I've said it for the last week, but Bows have really, really messed up the top of the table, because nobody's really expecting to be up there. And so somebody's got to drop down. So there's a little bit of a chance there for someone else to come in. And, we take Rover, for example, who had a shocker of a start of the season. And now they're beating Derry tonight 2-0. I've seen one or two of the chance. They're probably going to score 4. But yeah, you just need to be. You don't necessarily need to beat them. You just need to, like you say, you need to stay with them. Like I think Patsy had put up earlier on that Patsy Mattis, a draw. You take a draw for the week we're after having. If you can pick up, you've got 2 wins and a draw in the space of 8 or 9 days. It's not bad.
It's the unbeaten run going as well, isn't it? It's unbeaten down exactly. 4. Like
yeah. I'm fully expecting us to hammer them, of course. But we take a draw. When the predictions come in, that'll be 5-0 Dundalk.
But even when you just look at the table there, like you look at Cork City, like that result really is glaring now. That if we had gotten something out of that game, we'd be even in a much better position. I think that day was just, it was the pits altogether. Very, very difficult.
And those days are going to haunt you at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Whereas, and the funny thing is, wins tonight you won't remember, because they were just kind of
as you were saying, not a 4-0 win that everyone's going to remember. It's that. Yeah. Do you remember when down to Turner's Cross on Easter Monday? That they're the kind of results that will come back at the end of the season, and they're the ones that cost you the European place or something else. So it's something that when Cork do come to Oriel Park in the next couple of weeks, that's rectified. And I know that I don't know whether Twitter is, it can be a dangerous place at times, but it seems that Colin Heaney is in serious trouble down there. And there's a lot of questions being asked of him at this moment in time. And you would kind of want to kind of you want to just keep doing the business. And if we were to get that result against Sligo, or even a draw or something like that, and then go into the Cork game and still be unbeaten, then there's your momentum straight away for just getting that and putting that 1-0 loss down in Cork to bed and just moving on.
Yeah. Yes. Look, I as I say, I think it's important just to keep matching probably as close to Derry as we can get, and match Sligo Rovers results at the moment. I think that will definitely keep us in the mix. Look, gents, we've done over an hour. Somehow we've talked to death the game in the bowl, which is never that easy either. Just want to thank both of you for coming on tonight. Thank you everyone for all your comments as well. I don't know if we remembered this to pass on our regards to Flano and his recovery. So if we didn't before, we'll definitely do it now. To as well, John. Thanks everyone.
The knee looks great. He sent me a photo.
There we go. Thanks as always to Tony's Pizzeria, as we mentioned earlier on, for our man of the match competition pizza, to Donal Green and Dundalk Village for overall sponsorship of the podcast, and to Player Fit for the shirt for this year. Gents, that'll do us for tonight. As I said, on to Sligo next. It'll be the situation where we'll know all the results and we'll know what's been asked of us. But I think you're right. I think if we can come out of there with a draw, I think we'll have ourselves in a good position, as Kieran just said, keep that unbeaten run going. Well, gents, until then, come on the town.